Across now to Brisbane to the Queensland Premier Anna Bligh. Anna Bligh, you visited some of the areas worst affected by the flooding. Can you give us your impressions?
Yes, Tracy, it's devastation out there. This is without doubt a tragedy on an unprecedented scale. Just to give you some context, we now have 22 towns or cities that are either substantially flooded or are isolated because the roads have been cut off to them. That represents some 200,000 people, spanning an area that's bigger than the size of France and Germany combined. So the logistical effort to ensure that they have food, that they can be accommodated, they can be kept safe, at the same time as we have major centres like Emerald and Rockhampton facing or bracing now for the worst floods that they've ever seen, means that we're certainly seeing something unfold here in Queensland that frankly is just a tragedy.
How do you think people are holding up? Because obviously they don't know when they're going to be back to their homes. They're obviously very worried about their businesses, their belongings. How are they feeling?
Well, we now have 17 evacuation centres accommodating about 850 people, and that could rise by more than 2,000 tomorrow, depending on what happens in Emerald. So a lot of people don't yet know what's happened to their homes, and they're very frightened about that. A lot of people have got back to at least look down their street and see that the water is already lapping at the rooftops. So they know they're going home to something unimaginable. They've lost precious family items. Some of them are still, I think, in a state of shock, and it won't be, as you heard Greg Goebel say, till maybe a week's time when they get back and they see the water has receded and really understand not just what's happened to them and their family, but their neighbours, their street, their whole suburbs. There is a lot of heartache yet to come. But in Rockhampton, for example, we are bracing for what might be, as I said, the biggest flood they've ever experienced. This is a city of some 75,000 people, but we were trucking in, for example, this afternoon we trucked 1,000 mattresses in from Gladstone to the Ag College there, into Rockhampton to the university, where we might be accommodating more than 2,000 people in the next couple of days. So we've yet to see a lot of people really are watching the waters come up and don't know if it'll be their house that goes next. So still a lot of unknowns for a lot of people.
You're obviously focusing on the job ahead, but when you actually got out there and saw what was happening close up, were you affected by it?
Oh, it's impossible not to be affected. As you fly over these towns, you can see whole areas where all you can see is the rooftops, and you know that underneath those roofs are precious family memories, photos, things that can never be recovered. Talking to many of the people, it's such a special time of year. Most people are spending it with their family and their friends, and I spoke to one woman who was looking at her house down the street where the water was lapping the roof, and she just said, 2.5 days ago, Christmas Day, we were playing cricket in the front yard. So in just 48 hours, her family's life had been turned completely upside down. In some places like Bundaberg, they had very little notice, and they've left with pretty much what they were standing up in. Other places like Emerald, they've had several days to get ready, but it still is huge upheaval. People gathering up their children, their pets, trying to work out what they can take with them. As I said, it's not just one town. People might have otherwise gone to friends in the neighbouring town, but that town's affected. So, we're really seeing something we haven't seen before when you talk about the number of places all happening at once. It's stretching our volunteers, it's stretching our emergency response, but so far they're really rising to that challenge, and they're doing an absolutely magnificent job.
Now, some key industries have been affected, obviously enormous infrastructure, road, bridge damage. Can you even begin to count the cost in dollar terms?
Clearly we've still got waters rising, and it won't be till they start receding that we really get a much better picture. But we know already on just the state roads that we're aware of, there's probably now about $1.5 billion worth of damage to bridges on state road systems and some of the road network. That's without counting National Highway, council roads and other infrastructure such as schools and sporting clubs and a whole range of areas where we haven't even been able to do any assessment. That, of course, doesn't count for the private property, major industries. You've just heard that the restaurant owner, as well as major mining companies, the agricultural sector. Flying over Emerald today, you can see just the bare green tops of orchards that will have lost everything. And many days before you'll see the water come down there, so very unlikely they'll be able to save any of that crop. So agriculture, tourism, hospitality, mining, very big economic impacts, and particularly in some of those big industries like mining and agriculture, I think we can expect to see a reverberation through the national economy in the weeks and months ahead.
Now, you've set up the Special Disaster Relief Fund, kicked in $1 million. The federal government has matched that. How will that work? Who will that money be for?
Well, of course, people in all of these areas are eligible for state and federal government assistance, and depending on means testing and their circumstances and whether they're insured, they'll be eligible for different levels of assistance. Of course, federal and state governments will be investing billions of dollars in the rebuilding effort. The relief appeal is really a way for the community to dig deep and help their fellow Australians. That will be administered by the Red Cross. They've got great experience and they've administered these appeals for us in the past. It's the Red Cross who know, the families on the ground, that are really the ones doing it tough, and they administer it on behalf of the government. So you can be very certain that the money you donate will go to the people most in need, and the Red Cross will see to that. I'm very pleased to say we've seen some very big donations. Xstrata Coal have donated $1 million today, as have Coles. The Coles supermarket in Emerald is flooded as we speak, but they've put in $1 million. But we've now seen the fund hit close to $5 million in less than 24 hours. So I thank everybody who's been part of that so far. It's the difference sometimes between what government can do and what the community can add to that to make a house back into a home.
Well, as you say, Premier, this disaster is far from over, so thank you very much for speaking to us in the middle of it all.
Thank you very much, Tracy.